Welcome to Nerds on the Couch. I'm Renee.
Harley.
David.
This weekend, we went out and we saw one of the big Marvel movies that we've all been seeing, and it's actually the next day, Monday, so it's a big hit now, and it's huge. It's a huge blockbuster now. So we're going to give you our review of Thor, the Dark World.
Yeah.
Going into it, you know, we've been seeing previews for what, again, a year and a half? More than anything, we've been seeing a lot of previews. And we talked about this in our recap show and all that. The previews didn't look good.
No.
They made us worry on what quality of a film that they were going to deliver.
Yeah. Gino, you were especially vocal about it.
Yeah, it didn't look good. It looked terrible. Like I told you, I thought, it's fine. I got Iron Man 3, but,
Oh,
I have them.
Yeah.
And the previews didn't look good. And, they kind of redeemed themselves a little bit with the other trailer they showed up. It looked a little bit better.
Yeah. But one of the things that kind of got to me was that when we saw that trailer, which I'm showing you right now, we didn't see much. There wasn't any action, and we kind
The
of
first one, it was practically nothing. Something arrives in some city. We didn't even know what city. And we're going, and? So? There wasn't even anything there to go ahead and say it was for Thor.
Well, we did see Thor.
Briefly, not enough.
Now that I got a little bit closer to the previews, they changed the previews up a little bit.
Yeah.
And you started seeing more action. But we didn't see the bad guys, remember?
Briefly. We saw in the second one, we kind of saw something.
The only reason I knew it was the bad guys because I play the Avengers game on Facebook. So, remember, none of the previews we saw, we hardly saw anything of the bad guys.
And that's one of the things, when Box Office Mojo was talking about this, basically, people couldn't understand in the theatrical trailer who's the bad guy. We know Loki, but we don't see any bad guy in this. And maybe that was a good thing, because, Iron Man 3, we're all waiting for the Mandarin to come out, and then they go ahead and do a switcheroo that we hated.
Well, let me tell you, I was so scared of that after watching
Iron
Man 3. I was like, no, but I got the idea that it was somebody else.
I had it.
You hear Odin's voice, Anthony Hopkins going, these evil, ancient evil.
Yeah, the basically the Dark Elves.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the biggest clue we saw in the trailer, we saw Thor saying to Loki, I need your help. We knew then it was going to be another enemy,
Yeah.
But we didn't know who.
No, not the enemy, but we knew Loki wasn't going to be the enemy, is what I'm saying.
We saw the movie, and for one thing, right away, it caught my interest. It started off with action. Good amount of action in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
We're not giving out spoilers. We don't, we're not, just to be safe, no spoilers. But we had a good amount of action, and I was all into it. I was like, yes, we start seeing basic plot, Dark Elves. Those are the bad guys. And then I got a little down because it started to drag.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you had some of these comedy routines that really didn't add anything. I mean, there's one specifically that occurs at a certain place in England that is famous for its monoliths. But, not to name the place, but the thing is that I didn't see where that added anything. It was like, okay, so?
Well, we can safely say that a lot of the regular cast from Thor comes back.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Comes back.
Of course, Natalie Portman's in it, and
also...
Kat Dennison.
Kat
Dennison, Stellan
Skarsgård. Who was great in Thor and the Avengers.
And he was good here in the two.
Yeah, he was great in here. But again, I felt that as I was watching it, it started off with a great exposition. And then to me, it kind of just went downhill.
I don't think that she went ahead and pulled her weight in this film.
Who is she?
Natalie Portman.
I was going to get to that. I didn't think Natalie
I
Portman...
kind of have the same. Yeah, I have the same opinion.
It was like she was sedated, like she was going through on Xanax or something.
Yeah.
Damsel in distress, on
Yeah.
Xanax, yeah.
Pretty much that's what it is.
Well, I
The
mean,
base-
didn't even bother to go ahead and go, save me, Thor, save me.
Well, no, that's good.
No.
I
Hey,
wouldn't
that's a
want
good
to see
thing,
that,
man.
dude.
That's a good thing, man.
But I mean, instead it was like, okay, save me. It was like, I mean, I was hoping for something there.
Actually, it kind of works, and I don't know if this was her intention, but it kind of works for me. If they don't have her in the next movie, I wouldn't have a problem with it, honestly. If they don't have her at all,
Well,
her character out of the movie, or they get somebody new, I wouldn't have a problem.
Yeah, I kept
Yeah.
thinking, are we really going to miss Natalie Portman if they just switch her out?
Yeah, she didn't do a good job in this movie. Just, I don't know. I can't right now think specifically what it was about her. I'm not sure.
Well, to me, I think she was basically the simple damsel in distress. Following the plot, yes, they established dark elves. They establish in the story that, again, Natalie Portman's character, Jane Foster, is still looking for Thor, and it's leading to portals. Again, that's still part of the story. And, you find out that things are going on in the land of Asgard and all that, and, battles, and because there was chaos because of what happened in the last movie, and Thor hasn't shown up.
I would have liked to see more of Sif. Jamie Alexander. She was cool. I liked her. Every scene she came out in was cool.
Oh, you mean the intern that was stealing the spotlight
No.
from her?
No.
No, Lady Sif.
Lady Sif,
Oh.
I didn't like.
Yeah.
Well, let's just say they kind of, that's kind of the thing they didn't do. They kind of established that there's a love triangle forming, but then they really didn't get into it at all.
Yeah.
It was just a stare here, a stare there. Chris Hemsworth's like shirtless for maybe like not even 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Not like Hugh Jackman and Wolverine who has a sexy time.
Now that you mentioned that this movie I kind of put in the kind of the same vein as the Wolverine.
When it comes to
Well, it's a
inserted-
story about a superhero, and then they throw the whole romance thing in there. That's what Thor for me was the same thing. You had the superhero, and they threw in that whole romance thing into it.
Yeah, and I think they tried to do it, like they were kind of blatant about it. Like I mentioned before, they did the same reason why you had that girl in Star Trek in the bikini. There was no reason, just to have.
I'll tell you what I didn't like. The biggest downfall to the movie is the villain. I'm sorry. They didn't seem that menacing to me. They didn't seem to be doing as much in this film as I would have expected them.
Oh, I disagree
Well,
with you
I
completely. Disagree with
I'm
you.
kind of with you in the beginning part of the film. Because I'm still up in that. For like the first half, I think it was the first half hour, really not much was happening.
No.
Well, not much was happening because they're still establishing the whole.
Yeah.
Oh, I gotta find my Prince Charming, and oh, never mind. I can't say that because that's a spoiler. But it's all my Prince Charming, my Prince Charming. They're establishing that whole thing.
Basically, it was. I mean, it's not a spoiler, but basically it was.
Yeah.
And
That's
again,
jumping ahead. Just the beginning.
Loki shows up really. You see him in the beginning, dealing with the aftermath of the Avengers movie, and we don't see him again until middle of the movie.
Just about the middle.
And
Yeah.
again, still in that beginning part, I get that they're trying to establish. They're really trying to establish a lot of history with Thor. Basic idea, and again, this is still not a spoiler, but Jane Foster gets involved with inadvertently she gets involved with the bad guys. And it's up to Thor, again, to come in, save the day, and do all that. Which, again, like in the previews, you see Jane Foster going to Asgard. And again, all that is still kind of just dragged. I mean, to me, I kept thinking, you could have cut things out. You could have made things a little quicker. And
A lot of the stuff from the very beginning, I felt could have been cut out and made more tight. Because for an action film, for the first half of this film, there's not much action.
things picked up.
Yeah.
Saving grace was Loki.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I felt.
Well, one,
I don't know if I'd call it saving grace. For me, his
If it
performance.
wasn't for him, I would have found no redeeming qualities in this film.
No,
But I
I
do like-
wouldn't say saving grace though. I mean, I would say What can I praise?
If
this?
he was not in the film, he would have failed.
I wouldn't.
No,
I feel
no,
it. I feel it.
no, I'm not saving grace. That
or-
makes it seem like the movie was bad. The movie wasn't bad. I mean, it had certain things that worked. I mean,
Yeah.
Loki, I wouldn't say is a saving grace, but he's one of the best things in the movie, is what I would say.
He is the best thing. In
One
the
of
movie.
them.
Hold on. Orly?
Well, like I was saying, I love Loki.
Yeah.
I love his action. I love the fact that, at first, he's like, I'm not going to help you, but, and now, what, I could betray you. I don't care. Something could happen. But he is Loki all the way through the film. And I love the fact that he was still joking around, still being the trickster. And he did the way he did things. I mean, it made the movie very interesting.
Now, part of that is that they enhanced his character a lot by the scenes they gave him.
Mm-hmm.
The scene with his mother.
Oh,
I
give him
thought
more
was
depth.
Yeah, it made him a little more complex. In the Avengers, yeah, he was the bad guy, and he was a great bad guy.
Oh, yeah.
But now here, they kind of humanize him.
When Thor goes ahead and goes to Loki for help,
Mhm.
I love what happened when you go ahead and actually see the real Loki, and the way that he is. It added another element to it, and I liked that scene. And that's when I was like going, okay, I'm getting more interested with this. Because until that point, I mean, there were like a big portion of the film, at least 30 minutes, where I just couldn't see, and as you were saying, they were setting up this romance stuff that I was like going, okay, yeah, let's get on with some kind of action.
One of the things I gotta say though is I like the grown-up Thor in this movie. You know what I mean? In the first version, in the first Thor that we saw, he's very immature. We realize that towards the end of the movie, he grows up a little bit. And this movie, Thor's grown up. Okay, Thor's his actions. They're the actions of an adult. They're the actions of somebody who actually considers his actions and does them. You know what I mean? And when you mentioned that scene between him and Loki, they're both grown up. You know what I mean? You talked about the complexity of Loki. I like the complexity in Thor in that scene. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because he's asking him. He's being very mature. Everything throughout the movie, the way he deals with Loki isn't the way he would have been able to deal with him in the first movie, as he was in the beginning. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's more complexity between both of them. And that works.
You
Now-
brought up a great point. And this is one thing that I absolutely give Marvel movies and Thor high praise, is that they kept the continuity. Thor, you saw how he was in the first movie,
Yeah.
you saw how he was in the Avengers, and those two events affected Thor: The Dark World. It's a progression.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't the same. I hate sequels where they forget the previous movies. Blade is one of those where they forget what happened in the.
Yeah, they
Ghost Rider was a horrible one that they
Yeah.
forget.
Oh, yeah, that was
you
a bleeding one, dude.
Yeah, forget all
That
the
was a
history.
bleeding one.
They forget all
Yeah.
the history and the shaping of that character. You shaped him this
Yeah.
way, and then all of a sudden, okay, there we go.
Or worse, they put him back to the way he was.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
A bad scriptwriter could have made Thor the arrogant,
Yeah.
crazy,
That's true.
violent guy again. But no, this writer, in
Eh.
the second act, I think part of it was the emotion.
Yeah.
The battle scene that happened in Asgard.
Was
And
great.
again, to let you know, you think most of it happens on Earth? No. A lot, the majority of the movie takes place off-world
Yeah.
in Asgard. And the battle scene in Asgard was top-notch.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That was
Yeah.
amazing.
I mean, myself, one of the ones that and I like the actor, he was great in Pacific Rim, but
Oh.
Hamdell,
And
Idris Elba. Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, he basically really owned his character.
Oh God.
I mean,
yeah, he
when
was
he
so
said, there's a betrayal, and he says, mine. I mean, that was just like great writing,
Going
great acting.
into it, I want to talk, heading toward the end. I knew, I kind of felt like, oh, they're going to go here. And they threw these little twists, especially when you end up, in the different worlds. They play around with it, and you talk about the choreography.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's a fight scene where they actually thought out.
as much as as cool as the fight scene in the end was, the fight scene in the middle with Loki and Thor and everything in the middle, I enjoyed that one a little bit more. And you know, you said I guess because of Iron Man 3, the villains in this movie were a lot more interesting. Okay,
Well, let's
I
just
like
say,
the Dark Elves.
Let's just say they're worthy.
Yeah, they were credible
Yeah.
threat. You can't say the Dark Elves were not
They're
a
not a
credible
drunk
threat.
actor.
They
and
were.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Just to let you know, the Dark Elves were dangerous.
Yeah.
They were vicious. It's an army.
Yeah.
The main leader, bad guy.
Vicious.
Yeah,
Bad
but
guy.
you know what? His lieutenant's the one that drew most of my attention.
Well, the cursed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, of course, dude. There's a specific reason, which we're not going to get into. You have to see it to see why. But also, on top of that, fighting scenes, Loki fighting. Loki fought how Loki would fight,
Yeah.
and I loved that.
Yeah.
I respect the guys that did this and read up on Loki and did him justice. He fought like the way Loki would fight, and I respect that.
And just tapping a little bit was that you clearly see the Thor writers kept the progression, they understood it, and they acknowledged the other movies. Iron Man 3 kind of like, I don't want to say they didn't because they mentioned it, but they cast it aside. And that's
Well,
not the progression.
They went for gimmicks in Iron Man 3, and I
Yeah.
could tell because it was. I blame the director, who also wrote part of the script. I mean, I'm sorry. Keep the writers, the people that actually know the comics. Hire the comic book, the writers that do the comic books to do the
Ooh.
screenplay. Don't go ahead and just give it to some director that doesn't know anything about.
Now, to stop you there has been a history of that, and it hasn't been good.
Yeah.
I will admit, but
But you know what? You have to give it to a writer that understands several things. Number one, the story, understands the characters and respects them.
Yeah.
Doesn't necessarily have to like them. Has to respect the characters and understands continuity.
Yeah.
Because if you don't got continuity from like the first movie all the way to the end, you're not going to end up with a very good
well, I mean,
product.
I'm not going to say that we're going to end up with another, comic book writer went ahead and
The spirit.
the spirit.
Yeah.
That was somewhat of a disappointment. Though
Yeah,
I still
but
liked
that movie, and me and Renee talked about it. It's the way they put it together. It was too convoluted. It started like in the middle, and then took you to the beginning of it, and then to
Yeah.
the end, and that was really confusing. I followed it, but I followed it.
And they dealt with the mythology so well.
That
Oh,
is
fine.
kind of the greatest point about this. They respected the mythology, okay? They respected the storyline. They respected who the characters were, which another movie didn't do that at all. Okay, all right. And I'm kind of surprised how much I enjoyed this movie. I liked it. There's certain things I didn't like about it, but I'll get to that towards the end.
Now that we covered that, there are 2 credit scenes.
Yeah.
Gotta stay in the end.
Do not leave until the very end.
Now,
Yeah.
let's,
You will like the
yeah.
second one. It's hilarious.
the first one, I thought was cool when I said it.
Yeah.
I was
Oh, yeah.
like, cool.
Yeah.
Because we know what's going on.
We already know what's going on.
Yeah, we know we're
For
going to go.
those who don't who don't read the Marvel comics and all this, it's leading up to and now of course we reach to the part where we give Thor the Dark World a grade. Let's start with you, Orly.
I liked it. I didn't actually when I went into the theater. I didn't have any expectations. I wasn't thinking about, oh, this is going to be a great film. I just thought, okay, I'm going to watch it. And I watched it, and I really, really liked it. So I have to give it a really, really good grade. A 90%.
90%.
Yeah. You know what? I'm being very, 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 very. How do you say?
Generous?
Generous and kind towards Thor.
I know
Because
why you're
I know.
very generous and
Yeah,
kind to
yeah.
Thor.
Yeah.
For me, going into it, I now hold Marvel movies at a high bar.
Yeah.
No matter what, I'm sorry, I can't go there with no expectations anymore. We have had what? 5 movies now? The bar is set. The bar is high. After Iron Man, the Hulk, the Avengers, Captain America, all those movies. My bar is high whenever I go into those movies.
Admittedly,
Yeah.
what happened with Iron Man, though.
Yeah, and again, mediocre
Well, we're talking Iron Man.
doesn't
3.
fit. It doesn't fit. Iron Man 3 fell way short.
Way
And
short.
this one, going into it, I still hold that high expectation. I still hold it. And did that movie meet that bar? I have to say, ladies and gentlemen, yes, it did. It did meet that bar. I criticized, again, the beginning of it, and that's the low point. Was I completely bored watching those scenes? No, it was not completely boring. They're giving you information, which I get is part of the story so that you understand it. And again, you tolerated it. There's mild action in the beginning. Things drag a little bit. But then when it picks up, it picks up. I mean, it really takes you for a ride. And so because of that, good acting, story-wise, it's decent. Again, a little editing might have fixed it. Based on that, I'm going to side with you, and I'm going to give the movie an A. Not an A+, none of that. Just a solid A. It's good enough. It warrants you to go see it. It warrants another movie. And I'm still looking forward to the Avengers. I'm looking forward to Guardians of the Galaxy. And this movie washed Iron Man 3 out of my mouth.
Oh, thank God.
Well, for me, I would go along the same way. I'm looking at this and I'm thinking back to it. How does this compare with the original Thor? I'm not going to try to compare it with Avengers, because that's apples and oranges. How does this compare to the original Thor? And the original Thor had good writing, and though this one dragged at the beginning, and it had the romance that really I didn't need, and some of the other stuff that I was going, okay, it would have been better going with other stuff. When it comes to action, this beats the original in regards to the action scenes. I'm looking back at the original, and I just remember him having to fight against one thing, which was the giant, robot.
Guardian.
The Guardian
Destroyer.
from Asgard.
Destroyer. Oh, yeah.
Destroyer, yeah. With this,
Pizza Man.
no, there was a lot more going on, a lot more at stake, and it worked. I give it an A-, meaning around a 90, only because I felt that the Dark Elves could have been more.
Okay, I'll go with the minuses before I give the pluses. Okay, the minuses for me is Jane Foster's performance. Her character in the movie was flat. I didn't like it. It was lacking something, and I can't specifically tell you what it was lacking. Maybe I think you kind of touched on it, where there was no sense of excitement, no sense of, I'm enjoying this. There was no sense of that.
She might have been phoning it in.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. It's hard
Do you know
for me
what
to
it reminded
pinpoint
me of? The later version of Patton.
her performance. I disliked her performance. I don't know. As much as I disliked her, I wanted to see. Well, as much as she was in it, I would have preferred seen more scenes with Sif, Lady Sif. That's what I would have preferred. But whatever. Okay, that's one of the things I didn't like. Second thing I didn't like is that whole romance thing. It didn't take forever, but it didn't feel like it was needed. You know what I mean? I would have felt maybe if he'd had those emotions more with Lady Sif and stuff like that, and had a confrontation more with that, showing more of a love triangle where Lady Sif. Second thing was a romance. I don't know. I'm not sure. The romance, it would have been a little done differently. Maybe if I didn't feel like there was like it's not gonna work out. You know what I mean?
Well,
he's a god. She's a mortal.
You know what it is?
Kinda make sense,
it was too much romance and not enough bromance. I wanted to see him with his buddies going ahead and kicking ass.
Dude,
Maybe, okay.
romance should not be in your vocabulary.
Yeah, I don't think you know what romance means. No.
Yeah, you don't know what romance is.
Totally, yeah. Okay, so that kind of slowed it down for me. And the biggest part I hated was the romance. I just hated that. It took away a lot from Thor. I came here to see a movie with Thor defending his homeland, not mooning over. They respected the characters. You know what I mean? Okay. Loki, as much as I didn't like Jane Foster, that's about inversely proportionate to how much I like Loki's performance.
Oh yeah.
Loki's performance was great. He, we were talking about no emotion here, very credible emotion. You understand where the character's going, and we understand why he's doing what he's doing. Jane Foster, we only kind of understand why she's doing what she's doing, and the reason she's kind of doing it is kind of she's forced into it, sort of. You know what I mean? There's no real, like, I did this for, out of my own personal, like, motivations. You know what I mean? They respected the whole characters. Lady Sif was great, and I keep mentioning Lady Sif again. I wanted to see more Lady Sif. She was great. I disagree with you about the Dark Elves. I think they were a very credible threat. I think they did a good job. They were menacing. If you watch them show up on Asgard, dang. That Asgard battle was great, and Dark Elves were scary. You know what I mean? They were not. I think they did him justice, and I like Chris Eccleston's performance as Malekith.
Yeah.
I think Malekith. I liked him. You're right. I agree with you. The other guy, his enforcer dude, was great too.
Yeah.
And he did a lot more scenes, and you can understand why he has a lot more scenes. Because he's. You can see why. Oh, and talking about that, Loki's interaction with them and everything else was great.
Oh yeah.
So,
But yeah, Kurt.
all in all, I would like to give this an A+, but I can't. It just that whole romance thing really ruined it for me. I'd give it a B-. B+. B+ is the highest grade I'll give.
Okay.
A B+. That's no, never mind. A B- is the best grade I can give it, just because that romance thing did not work for me. I understand why they did it. I understand, but. No, and if we're talking about low expectations, that's pretty high for me, because I went into this movie thinking it was going to be garbage, to be honest with you. I saw the trailer and I said, this movie's going to be horrible. I got Iron Man 3, so it's okay, and it's, we were talking about inverse proportionate, that's all it is now.
Displaced
it displaced it. Now, I'm more, I like this movie a whole lot more. It was good, it was a lot better than Iron Man 3, and maybe that's kind of the reaction I like.
Nerds on the couch. Thank you for going ahead and listening to us talk about Thor, The Dark World. Keep in touch with us. Like us on Facebook.
Keep watching.